Myself, Professor Sana Ravi Prasad, welcome you all to the second session of the day, Sampling and Sampling Techniques. Our resource person for the session is Dr. Anil Sutar, Associate Dean of School of Research Methodology of Tata Institute of Social Science. I'll give a brief introduction about the sir. Sir has graduated in BA with Economics, Applied Statistics and Sociology as the core subject from the Karnataka University, Dharwad in the year 1994. And later on, he obtained master degree in Sociology from the same university. Sir has awarded Junior Research Fellowship, that is JRF, by UGC, New Delhi, to pursue research in 1998. And with research fellowship, he obtained MPhil and PhD degrees in sociology from the Karnataka University, Dharwad. He has in total 18 years of experience in teaching research methodology at master's and at doctoral level programs and has been involved in training and dissemination activities related to research methods and analysis. He is also the convener of the MPhil and PhD programs at TISS and actively involved in mentoring and guiding research scholars in the institute. He has been involved with training activities for the Sasi Waters UNICEF district facilitators. Dr. Sutta has been invited as resource person for the research-related national and international workshops and has been guiding MA and PhD students for their research on diverse social, political, and educational themes. His core areas of research interest include qualitative and quantitative research methods, education, participatory governance, and leadership. He has published many papers on themes of research methodology and democratic decentralization in national and international journals. We welcome you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Now, without wasting much time, I would like to call upon Sutar sir to carry over the session. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Sahana, Dr. Lichi Santosh, and Principal of SMCT College, Professor Dr. Sridhar Setti, for inviting me to this workshop to deliver a talk. I will be going to speak on sampling methods. And you all know this sampling is divided into two sessions. The session I am basically focusing on theoretical aspects. Then after lunch, there will be a session by my colleague, which will be focused basically on practical application of sampling, especially issues of estimation of sampling error, determination of sample size. Such technicality and operational aspect will be dealt by my another colleague. So what I am basically going to speak is about very equally important aspect of sampling, because there has been a tendency that only technical aspect of sampling, such as estimation of sampling error, then scientific determination of sample size. These have gained a lot of importance among research scholars community. But what kind of sampling method, the technique one has to select for a particular kind of research has not been that much seriously deliberated. For instance, as Professor Sahana rightly told, I happens to be the anchorer and coordinator of coursework for MPhil PhD at our institute. Based on my own experiences of having interaction with doctoral students and students of Master of Philosophy, let me share with you some of the real life illustrations. How research scholars they by mistakenly they select certain sampling methods which were actually not appropriate for the kind of research objectives, the kind of research design their study proposes. For instance, I come across a research project on construction workers in Mumbai city, and the sampling method proposed was a simple random sampling. But in case of selecting level of significance, estimation of sample error, and scientific determination of sample size, the proposal I found very excellent. Even the scholar has applied a very scientific procedure, used scientific formula to determine what is the appropriate sample size for studying the construction workers in Mumbai city. But we found the major problem with the method of sampling itself. How one can think of simple random sampling in case of construction workers? As we all know, the sampling frame is very crucial in case of sampling methods that fall under the category of random probabilistic sample. But in case of construction workers, basically they fall under the category of informal sector. The construction sites actually sporadically spread across Mumbai city, and as we know, though there are social security measures meant for informal sector workers, including construction workers, but there is no such a data bank available with be it Ministry of Labor or any other developmental agencies. So now the moot question is, when there is a no sampling frame, I mean the listing of the construction workers in Mumbai city at particular time. Again, you all know that these construction workers are bit kind of transitory kind of a population, highly mobile. They quite often shift the sites. They keep moving on also. So what I am trying to highlight is the issues of sample size, how scientifically one determines sample size, and how to estimate sampling error, and all these things are quite crucial. At the same time, even what kind of sampling method, this is basically actually inferred by your research objectives, your research design, and there are a lot of theoretical consideration, how one should think about a particular sampling method. And when you find probabilistic samplings are important, and at what stage you find non-probabilistic. Even you might have come across there is a kind of dichotomy. At one hand, we have a random, also known as probabilistic sampling methods, starting with simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster and multistage sampling. These are the main probabilistic sampling methods. Whereas on the other end, we have another set of methods, non-probabilistic, non-random, and some scholars even attribute them as a subjective sampling method, and some even go to the extent of saying that what I can say, judgmental kind of sampling methods. Basically, under quality 2, we can use much pair term to designate non-random sampling. We can call them as instead of calling subjective discriminatory sampling methods, we can call non-random sampling as quality 2 sampling methods, where we think about convenient sampling method, purposive sampling method, quota sampling method, snowball sampling. You all must be familiar with the term, snowball sampling. These are, some of the non-random sampling methods. And what the basic questions I come across, the basic issue concern is that research scholars, especially the young research scholars, they never actually seriously deliberate upon which kind of method they should actually think for their research project. Should they go for the group of probabilistic or non-probabilistic? And sometimes, interestingly, there could also be a possibility of combination. Sometimes we think that research methodology is as if set forth by law. No, it is not like that. Research methodology is not actually actually a code of procedure like CRPC or IPC. It is nothing like that. Research methodology, it all is actually shaped by academic paternity, the academic traditions, academic protocols. So even interestingly, I will share the PPTs. Yeah, somebody is interested in PPT, Nagaraju. I will share. Okay, so what I was trying to tell, the actually one should go for probabilistic or non-probabilistic. There is not much deliberation, serious deliberation. So this is the prelude. This is the prelude for my talk actually. Which sampling method is appropriate, which is not appropriate. And I will share with you some of my PPTs, and we can again discuss while seeing those PPTs. Yeah. Yeah, PPTs are visible, Nagaraju?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's visible, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So these are some of the readings, very important readings you can note down. Earl Bobby's work, The Practice of Social Research, and David Gray's work, Doing Research in the Real World. And one interesting peer-reviewed journal, Theoretical Justification of Sampling Choices in International Marketing Research, by NL Reynolds and others. You can even refer that work also. The article is available in just e-resource site. You can access it instantly now also if you are having access. So basically, I will discuss some of the issues. There were certain issues I will skip because I will go in a very structured way. Yeah. So this I will start with probability or random sampling methods. I will give you some idea. Then we'll think about certain examples of probability or random sampling methods. The basic provision of random sampling method is it gives equal chances to all elements cases in the population to be selected. Like most of you must be knowing lottery method. Even probabilistic random sample is also selected with the help of random number tables. But lottery method is the best illustration. You can imagine what does it mean of giving equal chances to all the cases. Suppose when I say, Nagraju, when I say I am selecting I am using a random sampling method to select management faculty, management teachers in Mumbai. In Mumbai means I am giving equal chances to all management teachers in Mumbai, management teachers in Kandivali, management teachers in Kolaba, management teachers in Chambur. You are getting my point. When I say that I am using random sampling method to select my respondents, means it is very serious claim. It is very serious claim. Serious claim means I have an obligation. I have an obligation to ensure that all management teachers. Of course, I can further delimit by saying that management teachers from aided college, management teachers from non-aided. That is your prerogative. But whatever narrowing down you do, then you should be in a position to ensure that all the management teachers in that particular area are given equal and fair chance of being selected in your sample. That is the basic idea behind random sampling method. That is how this simple random sampling is also random sampling is also known as non-discriminatory in nature. Non-discriminatory means you are not supposed to, there are in sampling method, as let me reiterate, in sampling we talk about errors, sampling errors, non-sampling errors, even inclusion and exclusion of certain participants, respondents is also serious sampling error that we call non-sampling error. How certain management teachers are not listed in my sampling frame, so that can be an issue. And these random sampling methods are quite crucial when your research objectives are aiming at estimating population parameters based on the sample. Population parameters you can take based on sample mean, you try to estimate population mean, like for instance if you are interested to see, for example, how many management faculties they read international peer-reviewed journals in Mumbai, or they have subscribed whether online or hard copy. How many management faculties in Mumbai have subscribed to peer-reviewed international management journal? One or two, whatever it may be, at least one journal. How many of them they have subscribed it? So then one way of doing it, you do census. You are getting my point. Do census means it is very gigantic task actually. A lot of energy, cost involved, time, traveling. Of course, nowadays you can do it even online also, but there are issues related to accuracy. That is why the census result into more problems than sample survey. It has been very, very well said. Methodologically, sample surveys are giving more accurate results than the census survey, because the census involves huge task. That is why you can think of a case wherein while counting 100 notes, you are likely to make no mistakes, count it twice, thrice. But while counting 10 notes, I don't think someone will count 10 notes 3 times or 2 times, because 10 notes, you are very sure there is less likely error. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 notes you counted accurately. But while if a bundle of notes is given to you, suppose some 500 notes are given, then you will become nervous and even a kind of anxiety also, whether I will count properly or not. You can use this metaphor to depend that sample surveys yield more accurate results than census. So in that case, just by selecting some 100, no, you can even select some 100 management teachers in Mumbai. Of course, there may be, 2000 management teachers. Just you can select 100 management teachers and intro them what kind of international peer-reviewed journals they are reading, they have subscribed. Suppose based you will find out the mean number. Then based on that, you are going to generalize to the overall population. When your research exercises involve such kind of estimation of population parameters, then random samplings are very crucial or very significant one. You are not supposed to attempt to estimate population parameters by following purposive kind of sampling methods, non-random sampling methods. That will be a very serious issue. So this is a kind of background to this random sampling. And then we'll see one by one. This the first popular method in random sample is, we call it SRS. That is simple random sampling. Basically, this, as you know, a lottery method. A strict randomness is followed here. It gives equal chance to all the elements in the population to be selected. And this simple random sampling you can think of using because in methodology, even sampling is an important component of methodology. In methodology, appropriateness is very important. So simple random sampling is highly advisable, highly recommended when the respondents, the participants you are dealing, the population of respondent is quite homogeneous. When it is homogeneous, then simple random sampling is the most appropriate. Homogeneous in terms of you can identify be it demographic variables or some other variables of your research interest. When you come across that the sample, the population you are going to study is more or less homogeneous, then simple random sample can be advisable. Then systematic random sampling. This again variant of random sampling only. Most of the time we come across simple random sampling only. Our scholars, they vaguely they say that random sampling method I will follow. That is not the correct way of saying. There is not one random sampling method. There are several subgroups within random sampling. When you say that you are proposing to use random sampling, be specific whether you are using the simple random sampling method or systematic random sampling method or stratified random sampling method or other. So here is the second case of the systematic random sampling method. It again it is bit kind of combination of which assures your representativeness and also randomness. Because as I told you, in case of simple random sample, simple random sampling method is quite weak to ensure representativeness of the population if population is heterogeneous. That is why we say that its use can be limited only when population is homogeneous. But in case of a population which is heterogeneous, but in that case you want to assure you want randomness, and also you are concerned about whether representativeness of the sample, then systematic random sampling is advisable, appropriate. What it said, it allows more representation than randomness. It divides the population into sampling intervals and then allows to select a case in each interval. I have given an illustration. A sampling interval is determined by dividing the number of cases in sampling frame, that is population, by the desired number of cases in the sample. For example, if there are 200 households, if you are entitled to do a household consumer survey, and if there are 200 households in the population, and the researcher, if you want a sample of size 20, then the sampling interval can be arrived at dividing 200 by 20, that is 10. 10 in case 10 is the interval for your selecting sample, or even it can be called as sampling unit. How it works, the researcher can select household number 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th till 200th. Then you will get 20 cases, 100%. You will get 20 cases. This is one way. Or you can, what you can do, you can make a separate sheet of 1 to 10 houses, one box, 20 to 10 to 20 houses, another box. Like there will be different sampling frames. Then from each box you select one household. Then definitely you will get 20 as your sample. This is quite interesting because in case if you follow just simple random sampling method, there is a possibility of getting cases from same characteristics, and the sampling may not have that much diversity and representativeness. It may not have much variation. In research, it is also very important to have a component of variation in the variable. For that, actually, in order to ensure that the phenomena you are studying has a dimension of variations, you can think of using simple random sampling. Then here is the case of stratified random sampling. Again, it is combination of randomness and representative. It is useful whenever the population under study is more heterogeneous. Here again, sampling frame is divided into different strata. Cases are then randomly selected. And as you know, there are two kinds of stratified sampling: proportionate stratified sampling and disproportionate stratified sampling. I have given the illustrations here. You can just see. In case of proportionate stratified sampling, the population size, the subset is actually given weightage in proportionate. For instance, suppose in a college there are 400 students, and you want to select 60 as your sample, as I have shown here. Then out of 60, suppose out of 400, there are 300 from arts stream and there are 100 from science stream. Then if you have to select 60 total from this 400, then ideally speaking, you should select 45 from arts stream randomly. You are doing randomly. Then 15 students from science stream. You are getting my point. Then that become 60 as your sample, because here you have to see the proportion of art students in total student is 75. Am I right? 300 divided by 400 into 100. You can take the percentage. The proportion of art students in total population is 75. Similarly, 75% of your sample should be art student. That is the idea of proportionate sampling. You are getting my point. In case of science students, the proportion of science students among out of total student is 25%. 400 and 100 students, 25. So then in case of your 60 sample, 25% of sample should be science. This is the idea of proportionate stratified sampling. Stratified here in the sense, we are dividing the students into strata, like arts stream students, one strata, then science students and another strata. You can even think of if there is another branch like management Or if there is again another branch called no law students. 5-6 start also we can create. Then from each strata you can select sample. There are two ways in stratified. No, proportionately you can select or disproportionately. And here I have given the example of disproportionate stratified sampling. 400 students, 300 and 100. What I have done here, I have taken from arts 30 students and from science also 30 students. So the relative strength of students in the population is ignored here. So sometimes now let me give you an illustration, a real life situation illustration. I come across one PhD scholar interested to actually use a stratified random sampling to select her respondents, participants for her study. Her study was something about job satisfaction and career mobility among social workers, professional social workers. And she divided social workers into different strata for selecting sample. You are getting my point. Social work, professional social work, like in management, in commerce you have so many streams, branches like finance. You have HR. You have organizational behavior, and you want operational research. So many minutely you can divide the stream. Similarly, for others, social work profession looks as a homogeneous, but it is not so. There are some social workers who work in corporate world also, very highly placed and very lucrative profession. You must be knowing CSR. Has become a responsibility now of all corporate world. So she divided the social workers. Let me come to that example. Like social workers, community organization, social workers with specialization in community organization, and social workers with specialization in social welfare administration. That was another branch. And she also come across social workers, as I told, something like public policy and governance, corporate responsibility, that group. And one more group she divided was social worker, that is medical and psychiatric social workers. Okay, when she collected the list of the social workers in a particular region, and she found for instance, community organization social workers were very big number. They were almost 500. And social welfare administration like NGOs and all social workers, they were also quite big, moderate, sizable number, 300. And when it comes to corporate also, they were okay, less, but okay, 200, 150 were those were social workers, public policy, governance kind of stream. But interestingly, when she noticed that in case of medical and medical social worker in the field of medical, like in Mumbai, you must be knowing KM hospital is there, public sector hospitals. There is a government position of medical social worker. You may not be knowing. So she found their number was very less. Community organization social worker were 500 and medical social workers were around 35 in her population. Now, if she goes by proportionate, then the medical social worker will be very marginal. Very marginal. You are getting my point. Where is 500? And this medical social worker will be very sidelined in their voices, their issues would not have been captured as in case of the larger groups. So she had this problem. She was interested in going for proportionate because she was under the impression that proportionate stratified sample is more scientific, and non-proportionate is not so. But we tried to help her, advised her, saying that in such kind of situation, disproportionate stratified sampling is the appropriate one. So don't go by proportionate. Then out of 35, she could involve around 20, 15 medical and psychiatric social workers were the visibility of that group was ensured by following second method. These things are very important for young budding researchers while developing their proposals. The holistic view of actually what kind of method one should follow is very important. Then in random, the last one I am discussing is that of cluster and multistage sampling. And this sampling framework method is quite useful when you are dealing with, once again, a large population. Whenever the sampling, large population, if sampling frame is not there, I will give an illustration. Suppose some of you may be from economics, development studies and all, or even otherwise commerce also, you must be knowing it. I come across a study of small and marginal farmers. We talk as a category. In Indian economy, farmers have been classified differently. Large farmers, medium farmers, small and marginal farmers, and government have specific schemes for small and marginal farmers. Suppose if I want to study the small farmers in Maharashtra, I don't think getting the list of all these small farmers in Maharashtra is that easy. Of course, nowadays, thanks to the digitalization of land records and all, but still it is very gigantic task. So in that case, how one should go about? So because I may not be having much resources, my funding is very limited, and my research stops are very few, and the time duration for completing my research project is also very limited. In such cases, how I should study the small farmers in whole Maharashtra without compromising scientific rigor. I will illustrate the method. In such cases, the cluster and multistage sampling method actually rescues the researcher. And this sampling is also known area sampling. Why it is so? Because basically it is selection is decided on geographical basis. I will show illustration. Here is the illustration. I hope you can see. For a multistage, it has two terms. This sampling, multistage and cluster. Then you should demonstrate in sampling plan you are following different phases, that is multi-stages, and you should also demonstrate you are selecting clusters also. Clusters means a combination of sampling elements. I will illustrate it. Let me know. For instance, what I will do, I am going to study small farmers in Maharashtra. How I can do it with the help of multi-stage and cluster. The Maharashtra, I will divide the whole state into 4 divisions: Western Maharashtra, Konkan, Vidarbha, and Marathwada. Then what I will do, again, very interesting point here, you should also keep in mind. In cluster and multi-stage sampling, even the principle of randomness is applied. So in Western Maharashtra, randomly I will select 2 districts. There could be in Western Maharashtra around 10-15 districts. I am selecting randomly without any bias. I will randomly select 2 districts. Similarly, from Konkan Maharashtra, I will select 2 districts. From Vidarbha, I will select 2 districts. From Marathwada, 2 districts. So my first stage, that is why you can note down. Nagraju, you can note down. The first stage, multi-stage sampling. No, what are the multi-stages here? The first stage is I have selected 8 districts. That is the first stage. Now my sampling is not done yet. It is first stage. Then at second level, what I will do, I will select one block or taluka from each district. So in Western Maharashtra, I have selected 2 districts. Means one taluka or one block from each district means 2 blocks I am selecting from Western region. Similar is Konkan. So at second stage, I have selected 8 blocks. Now I am ignoring 8 districts. 8 district is actually disappeared. Now my focus is on 8 blocks. This is second stage. In multi-stage sampling, the second stage is I have selected 8 blocks. Now after this, what I will do, I will select one village from each block. One village from each block. And in each region, there are 2 blocks. No, then 2 villages from each region. So in the third stage, if you see here, 8 villages I have selected. Very scientifically, you are getting my point. Very scientifically I have done without any bias. So 8 villages are my final cluster. Again, cluster, why it is cluster, you know? District is cluster. Am I right? District as a unit is cluster. Block or taluka is also cluster. Then village is also cluster. That is why the name multi-stage and cluster sampling. Now what I will do, from each village, I will select 100 for small farmers. From each village, I will select 100 small farmers. So 800 will be my sample size. You are getting my point. 800 will be my sample size. Then how I arrived at 800 and all, you can even you can revisit sampling size determination formula. Then accordingly we can plan it also. Should you select 50 farmers from each village, or 35 or 75? That will be decided by your sample size determination. So these 100 at actually at 4th stage, I mean 3rd stage you have selected village. I could not actually show here. No, the 4th stage is the 800 small farmers. Then you are actually interviewing the small farmers. That is the 4th stage. This is the illustration about multi-stage and cluster sampling. Now we'll come to this non-random sampling methods. And as I told you in the beginning, in case if you are interested to study some respondents, some population which are quite unorganized, very what I can say, transition in nature, quite mobile, not stationary, quite mobile population, transitionary population, unorganized, also undocumented. Suppose there were studies of even there has been an issue of sometimes there are some refugees from neighboring country in our country in India, like Bangladeshi refugees are there. They are illegally staying, and if you say that I want to study Bangladeshi refugees in India by following a random sampling method, means it is quite surprising, because they are undocumented and even we can say hidden population, and in such cases the qualitative sampling methods are the appropriate one. So that is why I have written no need of when you don't have sampling frame. Even construction workers, construction workers or street vendors and all, for such kind of groups, you can't think of simple random sampling or any random sampling method. You can even think of combination. Combination is okay. You can combine two different methods. That is okay. You can say first, I followed convenient sampling method. Then I started simple random. That is also okay. But to begin with, there are certain groups and population where you can't apply random sampling method. And these are basically suitable when your research purpose is exploration, mostly exploration. And in research there are two important consideration, for instance, external validity and internal validity. And the random sampling methods are quite suitable for external validity, for ensuring external validity. That is generalization, estimation, testing your study results beyond the research setting. That is the case of external validity. But there is also important objective in research, that is internal validity. So if your concern is internal validity, then non-random sampling methods are most appropriate. There, when your purpose is to ensure the internal validity of your research, then ideally you should go for non-random sampling method. That is internal validity in the sense, when you are trying to see the cause effect, relation to begin with. You are ascertaining whether this will lead to this result. Then consciously you will select a particular group and you test it. Then once the results show a kind of efficiency or significance, then you can think of random sampling methods at larger level. So these non-random sampling methods, one more idea is basically these are used in case of small groups, not like large surveys. Ideally speaking, internal validity, for testing internal validity, the non-random sampling methods are used. That is how we say that these are best suited for exploratory research studies. And there are other issues also, like as I told you, when the population is hidden, when the population is undocumented, then non-random sampling methods are the best methods in research. Okay, we'll discuss one by one what are, like as we did in case of random. These are the four important non-random sampling methods. The purposive sampling, convenience sampling, quota sampling, snowball sampling. We'll see one by one what they mean and how one can think of using them in research. The purposive sampling, again, I come across in sampling, two terms are highly, actually, what I can say, misused. No, I won't say abused, misused in the sense, random sample, people use it without applying mind. When people say I am going to use random sample, they say that random means arbitrary. I randomly I visited there, something like that. But in sampling, random has very scientific connotation. In the same way, even purposive sampling has also been misused in the sense, grossly actually misrepresented. People say that they are using purposive sampling method when actually it is not the kind of method they are using. So what is purposive sampling method? Purposive sampling again, no, most of these qualitative sampling method, non-random sampling methods, they can go well in combination. For instance, first you can do convenience sampling, then you can apply purposive, or first you can do convenience sampling, then you can go for snowball sampling. This is how most of the time the qualitative methods have been designed, and in most cases this combination of sampling methods is quite popular and allowed in case of qualitative research than in case of quantitative surveys. So purposive sampling basically is, you can note down here. I may not have actually given that crustal meaning of what is purposive sampling. The basic idea of purposive sampling is, in case of a certain sampling, in case of a particular kind of study, when you feel that random sampling is unimportant, then you think of purposive sampling, or random sampling won't have any implication for your study result, then the purposive sampling is the best method. I mean, the purposive sampling is a kind of sampling method which is directed by your research purpose or your research objective. For instance, if you want to study, for most of the time in anthropological, I will give some popular example so that you can compare, you can think about other similar cases in your discipline. In anthropology or in ethnography, students say, for instance, in Mumbai, they say that they want to study a particular tribe, nomadic tribe, denotified and nomadic tribe. For instance, I come across some research studies on a study of Parsi, Pardi, a study of Pardi community or Pardi tribe in Mumbai or in Tana. And here selecting Pardi tribe is actually emanated, that selection is emanated by the research intent. The researcher actually, it is like selection of a particular area. If somebody says, I want to study management teachers in Mumbai, of course, there are external experts I come across, they would ask, why management teachers in Mumbai? Why not in Kolkata? So you will give your own justifications, your report, issues of logistics, those things are there. But in ethnography, the research objectives, for instance, in case of Pardi, Pardi tribe, which happens to be during British period, actually, it was considered denotified. I mean, once it was under British regime listed as a habitual offender or criminal tribe. And then after independence, how this particular tribe is undergoing transition and changes. You can say that, Pardi and other related other tribe you can select. And the idea for, if somebody asks why you have selected only Pardi, why you have not selected other, there are other nomadics, why you haven't selected, if questions have been raised on this issue, then your justification usually revolve around saying that my research intent actually calls for selecting such group only. That is a purposive sampling. The purposive sampling means your study objectives can be fulfilled by selecting that particular sample only. That is the case of purposive sampling. I will come back during discussion if you have any questions. Then convenience sampling. This is quite interesting and quite commonly used method, convenience sampling. Even I asked why you want to study management teachers in Mumbai. Whether management teachers in Mumbai are very distinct than management teachers in Delhi and Bengaluru. Is there any distinctness, uniqueness? Or if you can even bring in also, Mumbai happens to be, commercial capital of India, and management and commerce disciplines, how they are shaping something. Then still you can bring in scientific angle to your rational. But otherwise, if you say that I want to study management teachers in Mumbai, somebody may ask even why not in Pune? Then most of the times the issues, convenience is at first case it appears. Okay, but here what I am talking convenience sampling not in terms of selecting topic for your research. It is within, again, I will give illustrations within your research project itself. What kind of sample method, what kind of respondents you select. For instance, a physician or a doctor conducting research and using his or her own patients as sample for the study. It could be an example of convenience sampling. Patients are going to doctor's clinics, family physician regularly. The doctor may administer a survey on them only because they are his or her own patients. There is a good rapport. There is no scope for non-response. High response rate will be there in survey. That is also important. So the best example for convenience sampling is a doctor studying one's own patients. Of course, there are ethical issues that for a time being I am not touching upon. No, there are protocols that actually prohibits doctors doing research on their own patients. It has moral issues also, and it has scientific issues also. Similarly, teachers using their own students, their own college students, or teachers using their own school students for their survey. These are convenience sampling. And sometimes you as a researcher, you will select a particular school for studying students precisely because the school principal happens to be very friendly with you. You can still mention that, or you might have worked earlier in that school or college and you have built good rapport there. These all could be a case of convenience sampling. And one more interesting case of convenience sampling I come across. For instance, suppose in a village study, a researcher was contemplating of doing survey of 2-3 villages, but the villages were very geographically spread out, sporadically households. For instance, 3-4 villages actually spread across almost some 20 kilometers apart, and a researcher had a difficulty in going to each household and conducting study. Then a researcher thought of a very innovative idea. These 3 villagers used to come to a particular place for weekly village bazaar. You all must be aware, even in still some villages there is a culture like village bazaar day will be there, village market day. Most of the villagers, they congregate even for selling their products also and buying. They congregate at one common place. And this researcher was very smart. Then a researcher thought, why should I waste time going all these 3-4 villages? And that too under when there was a temperature was so hot during summer. researcher went to that village market, bazaar day, then that marketplace, and there he asked villagers, you are from which village, then conducted interviews. I am not saying whether this method is ethically okay or not, but what I am trying to tell you is that this is the illustration. Even if you are very creative, you can even think of convenient sampling of this kind. Now here is a case of quota sampling. As I told, in case of small farmers, similar is you can think of that was random sampling, but in non-random way. If you want to study different groups, like for instance, you can even take the example of this consumerism. Once it was a very hot topic, I know, few years back, 10 years back, when this LPG was quite popular, when liberalization, privatization, and globalization was actually launched. And in the initial stage, the intense debate was on LPG. That time, even there was a concern expressed that the LPG has actually unleashed the culture of consumerism in Indian society. Consumerism, shopping. People. We talk about people getting addicted to drugs. We talk people getting addicted to smartphone, but nobody talk about people getting addicted to shopping. So consumerism. I am giving an example context. Suppose you want to study the impact of consumerism on households in Mumbai. Then you want to see consumerism, diversity, variation in that variable. No, you want to see the high class households, upper class, high income groups, then middle income groups, and lower income group. So this is the quota system. So what in quota sampling, you can say that your purpose of research is to study the impact of consumerism on households in Mumbai. And households in Mumbai, they are quite diverse. In order to capture that diversity, to give representativeness to all the households, I am dividing households into three groups: high income group households, middle income households, and low income households. Then from each group, I am selecting, suppose 100 households, 300 is going to be my sample. You are getting my point. This is the quota sample. You have decided quota. Sometimes you can say that for considering the number of people available, large number and all, then you can say that for some segment I will give 150. I can take. People were more forthcoming, because if you, in case of rich group and all, I come across our students had issues actually in terms of rapport building. Even middle class also, most of the time there is a saying, the social sciences in India have flourished because of the humbleness and innocence of the slum people and poor people, who welcomed researchers without any hesitation, given interviews. But whereas rich people and all, where the watchmen are guarding their housing society, middle class people who are having lot of stress. Am I right? Even while talking in their family, only middle class people fight actually. Even between couples only they fight. So much stress is there nowadays. So then researcher thinking to go to their houses and expecting they will welcome researcher. These are issues. So you decide quota. Then accordingly, you actually select the respondents and then conduct interview. This is an example of quota sampling, what I said in Mumbai, because you can't think about multi-stage and clustering, because that involves very huge project kind of thing. So qualitatively, if your interest is to explore, not estimating any parameter, then you can think of quota sampling as an alternative. Then snowball sampling, as I told you again, snowball sampling is in case of snowball sampling also, and in most of the cases of qualitative sampling, it is very difficult to determine the sample size in advance. In most cases, it evolves, but just you can even while submitting your research proposal, you can even just give an approximate number size of the sample, considering other studies, literature, by literature, help of literature. Similar studies have improved around 50 cases or 40 cases. In my case also, I may select that one. But the method, when you say snowball sampling method, how it works, the metaphor snowball is used here. In a Western country, especially in countries Northern Europe like Finland, Sweden, and all, where actually hailstorm, ice is quite common. In our context, we haven't seen ice only except in few states. This snowball is that metaphor. Snowball is a metaphor where once a small ice ball is rolled down, as it is rolled down, it gains size. It acquires larger size as it is rolled down. So similar idea is in snowball sampling. As you interview one person, then that person will help you to get the contact or give you the information about the possible second participant. So then it builds like that. It is like a chain reaction. It builds, your sample grows in size as you meet more and more people. That is the idea of snowball sampling. When you think about snowball sampling again, the criteria here, as earlier I told, it can be used in any context, but most of the time snowball sampling is used when the sample, the people you are looking are very minute, are quite small in population, very small size, not visible. And sometimes you can say even hidden population. In methodology, there is concept hidden population. Undocumented is also there, but hidden population. For instance, when in India and in the rest of the world, when the AIDS was at its worst stage in the early 90s and all. Then there were also a lot of concerns about its spread and issues about people especially who are quite vulnerable to spread of AIDS and all. People, for example, you must be aware about people, transgender people, and people with different sexual orientation and all. And this kind of population was quite hidden, and then going with any formal kind of sampling method was quite challenging those days. And I come across some studies, especially studies on HIV/AIDS and health-seeking kind of behavior by using snowball method, snowball sampling. You can think about these criteria. Snowball, you can think when population is hidden. Snowball, you can think when population may not be hidden, but population is very small. For instance, I can give an example in cities like Mumbai, there is everywhere there is a sand mafia. You might have heard water mafia also is there. I was told sand mafia, but I am not talking about sand mafia. But in general, those who trade in sand is quite crucial for construction industry to flourish. No, most of the construction projects I come across have actually delayed or abandoned because of the lack of sand only. Because cement we can produce, remember it, on war footing, cement we can produce, but I don't have any idea whether sand is being manufactured in like cement and all. But sand is a quite natural occurring thing, and if you want to study, there are two aspects. One, this is I come across that the workers who actually load sand in the trucks. That study that was from labor perspective. But if you want to study the traders who deal in sand business, then I don't think you will get a very, because this example I'm quoting, very small population in Mumbai. Hardly there can be, believe me, there can be 100 businessmen who are dealing with sand business, and most probably they may be connected. They may be knowing each one also. May not be all 100 to 100. First 10 may be knowing each other. Then 11th will be knowing second 10th, something like that. So when your research population is of this kind, then think about snowball sampling. Now I think I will open it for question answers, because 15 minutes, last 15 minutes can be used for question answer and all. So I will stop sharing now. Yeah, now question answers. Any issues you are having, your own questions, or what I said you want to add, you are welcome. You want to correct me, you are welcome. If you have your own research project also, you are welcome. Yeah.
Sir, there were a few questions previously. I'll just read the question.
Okay.
One question from Reshmi Pillai. Is there any proportionate sampling method? Which is the best in collecting data from aided and unaided college teachers in Mumbai? So she is asking whether proportionate sampling method is best.
Okay. Yeah, interesting question. Very interesting. Yeah, because proportionate is okay. Aided, suppose if aided college and unaided both number is not skewed, then proportionate is okay. But number is very skewed. For instance, unaided are more, like 70% are unaided, only 30 are aided, or vice versa. Then proportionate is not advisable. So that is, but I like Reshmi's idea of conceptualizing. Very good. Yeah.
Okay, so next question from Amitabh sir. My research area is consumer behavior. What will be my sample size?
Okay, consumer behavior. Then then particular particular area, city, or product. There are so many things, Amit. So many issues you can think of. But again, as I told you, sample size you want to decide, then population. For example, suppose a particular product is actually bought, or there are 5,000 clientele. There are 5,000 clientele for a product. Just I am imagining myself 5,000 clientele for a product, And if we want to study their preferences, what shaped their preference, what attracted them to prepare that product and issues and all. Then out of 5,000, how many I should study? I assume that Amit, you may be thinking like that. Then in that case, then your level of significance, yeah, Thane district, how we can calculate the sample size. Yeah, Amit ji, Sana, it will be discussed again after lunch session. But then the very important thing in sample size is, we have to set for the confidence level of significance, whether it is at 1% or at 5%. Then if population is 5,000 at 1%, automatically there are charts available now. One need not even go for sample size determination formula. If it is at level 1% level of significance, if population is 5,000, it will give idea that you can select 300 as your sample. It will give an idea. And there are some people, even they conduct first pilot study, they estimate mean, then pilot mean they use, then they then calculate for larger sample, what would be the size. Those are issues will be addressed later on. Yeah.
Okay, sir. One more question. May I know if the purposive sampling technique will be appropriate on passengers at a train station or a railway station, I guess?
Purpose, yeah.
Yes.
Then again, yeah, for studying such, passengers and all, you are right. Those, purpose, qualitative are the most appropriate one, because the sample tends to be quite transitionary in the sense, mobile, moving. Of course, they have documented in the sense, tickets and all. One can generate their list, name and all, randomly do it. But ideally speaking, such kind of research, if purpose is exploration, and if you need in-depth interviews kind of thing, then purpose is the appropriate one. Yeah.
Sir, one more related question to this. Attitude or purchase behavior of working women in these type of titles. Shall I go with the purposive or convenience sampling? Ningappa has asked. Purchase behavior of working women.
Yeah, it could be combination. It could be combination. Working woman, that convenience means you can still use your networking. Convenience can be possible, and then purpose in the sense, most of the time, if you are targeting a particular group, then always purpose comes there. Both are possible. What I can say, both are possible, and a good study can be done with that.
Sir, I don't think this is connected, but I'll just read out the question. If we collect data through Google form, then which sampling method is applicable?
Yeah, the Google form, then suppose if how you send the Google form to members, participants. Suppose if you select each management college faculty, you send it. Like for instance, 10, like SMS college, I will send 10 faculty. And then LLIM college, I will send 10 faculty. If I do some pattern systematic, then it can take the random probabilistic. But if you just non-random in the sense, whomsoever email contacts you are having, then it will take non-random actually in that case.
So one Shabnam has asked about how can I select sample size? Is there any technique? I think you have already answered this question.
Yeah, you are right.
Throughout the sessions.
Yeah.
Then investor behavior in Thane district. So how we can calculate the sample size? Any method for this?
Yeah, that question, no, same Amit asked, no, that it is
Yes,
like that
yes.
only.
I think almost it is done, sir. Yes, sir. Almost all the questions you have answered. Okay. Kazim ji, can you just repost your question again? Because I'm not able to find your question. I got it. Yes, sir. Academic achievement of students from joint and nuclear families. Which sampling method is appropriate for such kind of titles?
Okay, good, interesting. You can still, joint family and nuclear family, you can still think of strata. If you are having very rigorous quantitative study stratification, you can do it. But if you want to just initial kind of idea building, no, like I told you, internal validity, if you want to establish something to begin with exploration, then you can go for non-random, any one method you based on your objective. You think. But here, no, again, nuclear and joint family, one should not think about snowball sampling. Somebody was asking, no, one research, Sanaji, I come across, a student is proposing a study on elderly, and method suggested was the snowball sampling. Then one elderly person 60-year is asking again, where is another 60-year-old person? So that should not be the right way actually, because elderly are quite visible. Their population is also, no, around now 10% almost. So you out of 4.
Okay. One last question, shall we take, sir?
Yeah, no problem.
Vikas is asking for his PhD research. He had taken 500 sample, but if external is asking to justify it, so how can he justify it?
Yeah, that because the best way is, no, suppose if you have done it sample determination, no, with formula you have done it, then tell the external that, no, it is based on a scientific formula. Or if it is no, you have decided based on your objectives, then for instance, no, then you can explain that also, rational. Objective wise also, for instance, no, your objective requires, particular group, second objective require another set of groups. For instance, one study I come across, they are going to study the impact of ICT on youths. One objective is Sanaji on how youths have used ICT for online learning. Then other objectives are quite generic. So in that case, for that, to serve your online learning, how ICT youths are using, then that group also you select. For example, 100 youths I want college going, because I want to see the impact of ICT on online learning. Then other common youths, how they are using, internet, social media, that is different. So it is quite creative. If you have done it scientifically, you can say them straight forth that it is, I decided it based on scientific formula. Or if not, you say that my research objectives are so diverse, and for each objective I have selected so and so groups. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. One last question. My
Yeah.
topic concerns with buying behavior of senior citizens with reference to FMCG products in Mumbai and Navi Mumbai. Which sampling method can be used? FMCG products in Mumbai and Navi Mumbai.
Okay,
Senior
yeah.
Yeah.
Then this may be a large survey. If it is a large survey, then within per large survey itself, I told you, if you are not able to go per random, then quota can be best quota sampling. And if it is random, if you are funding, sometimes Sanaji, I forgotten to say that also. Sometimes funding agencies, they insist on random sample probabilistic. They want researcher to do more hard work because they are paying, no. So even government projects, funded research, they insist on random probabilistic sampling. So you see it, if it is your own academic or your writing paper, out of your own interest and all, then non-random is okay. But academically, there is no harm in that. So you decide it, if the objectives require something, because this consumer behavior and all, if some corporate group is asking you, they want some recommendation, some projections and all, go for then multi-stage cluster. Sanaj, I will advise multi-stage ward wise, in Mumbai you take some wards, then from each wards you take some localities, then they will be happy. He has done good work, hard work. So then you can do it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. I think you have almost answered all the questions with lots of patience. Okay, so without wasting much time, I will call upon our librarian ma'am, Smita Ravindranath, to give a formal vote of thanks. Smita ma'am, over to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Sana ma'am. I'm audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon, one and all. I am Ms. Smita Ravindranath, member of IQAC of the college. Consider my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. I express my sincere gratitude to the resource person, Dr. Anil Sutal sir, for this wonderful session on sampling and sampling techniques. Sir, the session was very enriching and resourceful and explained in a very lucid manner, making it easy for each one of us to understand. Thank you, sir. It's always been a pleasure to listen to all your sessions. Sincere thanks to our benevolent management for providing us with the necessary approvals and support from time to time. I'm thankful to our principal, sir, Dr. Sridhara Shetty, for leading us from the front and for being a guiding force in all our endeavors. This RM workshop would not have been possible without the initiative and guidance from our vice principals. Thank you, Vice Principal Dr. Liji Santosh ma'am, who is also our IQAC coordinator, and Vice Principal Assistant Professor Sandesha Shetty, sir. A big thank you to the organizing team for working tirelessly towards bringing forth this 10 days ICSSR sponsored workshop. I also express my sincere thanks to the technical team for providing with all the technical support required for organizing the event. I am thankful to all the coordinators, teachers, and non-teaching staff of the college for providing their support from time to time. Last but not the least, our enthusiastic participants. Thank you, dear participants, for joining us for this 10 days workshop and making the session so lively with your queries and feedback. We look forward to meet you again for the next few sessions too. Thank you once again. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Anil sir.
Thank you. Liji ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
So,
all the best from my side. All the best to your workshop. I will leave then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
7 more days to go, sir. Yes. So